Hi, everybody, and welcome to First Draft for the month of April. We are talking about author branding today. My name is Julia Kelly, and we're joined by some familiar faces and some very special guests today. So I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
You broke up. Or are we starting?
We're starting with Amy Jo.
Oh, sorry, I missed
Technological difficulties.
Hi, I'm Amy Jo Cousins, and I am an author of contemporary romance and erotica. Currently, I'm in the middle of my Bend or Break series, which is an LGBTQ series. And it ranges from male-male to male-female, and hopefully someday there will be just a straight-up girl romance. And I'm across the board with my branding, so I'll probably be here to learn as much as I can from you, as opposed to contributing brilliant wisdom. So, thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful. We're very happy to have you here. Laura, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself today?
Yes, sure. Hi, my name is Laura Von Holt. I'm a performer and a writer. I am working on a fantasy novel and also a paranormal. Nothing's published yet, which is why I'm still building my brand.
All right, we've got some familiar faces as well. Alexis.
Hi, I'm Alexis Anne. I write contemporary and erotic romance, and you can find me at alexisannebooks.com.
Mary Chris.
Hi, I am Mary Chris Escobar. I write women's fiction, and you can find me at marychrisescobar.com.
And I am Julia Kelly again, and I'm at juliakellywrites.com. And we're going to go ahead and kick off this conversation about author branding, kind of opening things up and talking about what is branding and why is it so important for writers now more than ever with all of this internet and self-publishing exposure. So why don't we go ahead and start with Amy Jo.
Sure. For myself, what I think I do that is my personal branding is mostly just to be as genuine as I can be in the social media areas that I operate, because I'm terrible at the actual branding that involves consistently putting out a product that your readers grow to expect and rely on. I'm really bad at that part. So since I'm not good at branding the actual books, which tend to be all over the place, the only thing that I think I can brand is myself. And mostly what I try to do is just engage in conversations with people whenever I am online that don't necessarily revolve around my books at all. Whether it's working with people who are runners or are talking about the latest scandal in science fiction fantasy fandom, those are the conversations that I have, and I think my brand in general right now is more just about being someone who engages in a genuine fashion online. So terrible advice for someone who wants to be really good at actually branding the book. I'm more branding myself as a person.
Okay. Laura, you come to it from a different perspective because you have the performer element as well as the writing side of things. What do you kind of see branding as for you in particular?
I'm sorry, broke up. What is branding what?
How do you see kind of your branding and why does it maybe differ a little bit because you are a performer as well?
Oh, sure. I'm not one of those writers who wants to be like hiding behind their book or anything. Like, I definitely want to be in front of everything. And I started out when I moved to New York doing guerrilla street pinup. So I kind of invented a brand as well as a character called Von Hottie. So I was walking around New York in my bathing suit, taking pictures on the street, and then making calendars. And that I kind of like launched the character and the brand at the same time, with the idea that eventually it would expand probably into other things. But I come at it from a place of like whoever you are as your brand is actually who you are. You have to be authentic. It's just a lot larger than you are in your real life. And I got the idea from like Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian. I was like, if they are going to walk around and be famous, so should I. I actually have something to say. So yeah, my idea of the author brand is to you know, be as large in life as I can be, and to be as entertaining as I can be, because I also have a performance background and performance career.
Alexis Anne, you're working with kind of a very distinct brand. You're working with erotic romance, which has all of its kind of very sexy built-in branding with it. How have you kind of worked that around what you're trying to do with your books?
When you muted yourself there briefly, it helped immensely, by the way.
Oh, great. We're having some technical difficulties, so bear with us. You know, Google Hangouts is an ever-evolving technology, so.
The erotic content does give you a different kind of twist to things, because some people are uncomfortable with that, so you don't want to be unapproachable. So I do try to make the brand about me first and foremost, so that I don't immediately shock people away. And so my brand is me, and then I lead people into the different areas that I write things. And I try to keep a look that is uniform across everything. I have a very flourished tangerine font, that is my signature font when I'm writing romance.
I love your signature font. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. I spent a lot of time looking for that.
I can tell. No, it's very eye-catching, and I see it consistently on your book. So I think, and I know other authors who do that, who have specifically worked with designers to create signature fonts for their books, and I think that is a brilliant thing, because it gives you that immediate visual impact that people don't have to think twice or look to see your name, even they just see it and recognize that.
I picked that up at the first RWA I went to. I was sitting in, it was a session kind of a little bit about this, how some of the authors were writing very steamy stuff, and some of them were writing like suspense type stuff. And so they were wondering, how do you distinguish your readers so that they can visually see right away whether you're writing this kind of story or that kind of story. And I really picked up on that and wanted to make sure that my romance because I knew eventually I'd be writing other genres, so I wanted my romances to stand out differently from anything else that I was writing.
Job well done.
Thank you.
Mary Chris, you do that really well in your books, I think, too. You have a very consistent look across all of your books, and I know when I see a Mary Chris Escobar book, I know exactly what I'm looking at. Can you talk a little bit about why you decided to go with that very particular branding and kind of where the idea came from?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't start out with that. I think, you know, we kind of all fumble through branding a little bit. And so, you know, I just started out creating whatever I wanted to go with books. And I actually had a chance to interact with somebody in publishing at RWA and get some feedback on my brand. And the feedback was your books should look more consistent. And it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, like that is such a simple and yet profound thing, you know, because I was always trying to sort of match the cover of the book to whatever the theme of the book was, instead of having, like you said, like a Mary Chris Escobar themed book. So I do think as an author, for me at least, you know, I am a big part of the brand, but I was treating my books like they were these little individual, you know, works of art, which they are, but they also are all mine. And so to create something where they kind of have a similar look about them. And I really, when I was looking at the look, you know, I write women's fiction, and I write women's fiction in the vein of chick lit. So I wanted sort of the, I don't know, fun, not cartoony cover, but just, you know, I've tried to keep my covers kind of bright, a little bit abstract. Same thing with font. I have a very specific font that I use for my name as well as for titles on the books, and just sort of try to carry a theme with sort of a basic background, and then bringing in those same fonts on that. And it was really amazing when I did it and looked at all my books on an online bookstore together. I was like, oh my gosh, they all match. Like they all look alike. I totally understand why I did that. So yeah, that was a big turning point for me to get that advice and to stop looking at the books as individual, like matching the cover to the subject, instead of matching them all to me and my brand.
So we've talked a little bit about the books, we've talked a little bit about fonts, and we've talked a little bit about social media. Let's go down to the bare basics. If you're talking to a brand new author who is not even got a book out, what are you telling them that they need to have or they need to be thinking about for the future for their brand? Does somebody want to kind of see if they can throw some stuff out, maybe starting with Alexis?
I would go look at your bookshelf or go to Amazon or iBooks or whatever retailer you like to use and go to the books that you like to read or the books that you're wanting to write similarly to and look at what people are doing and what draws your eye. Really pay attention to what makes you stop and look at something, and then maybe go to their website. If you can, go to a book signing and walk by everybody's tables, look at their banners and their bookmarks and their swag, and see which ones draw your attention, which ones make you stop and think, and then pay attention after that to which elements were the big things that made you stop. Was it the size of the font, the color of the font, the picture, the color scheme, the way things were arranged? There's always something that draws your eye and makes your brain just stop for a second and go, oh, what is that about? Who is that? You know, what is going on here? And then pay attention to how you have the ability to do the same thing with your brand.
I think one thing also to keep in mind is some of the basics that people will tell you you should be working with. You want to have a website. You want to have Twitter, Facebook, you know, the social media accounts. You're going to need to grab them anyway. You might as well grab them now, and you might as well start building that brand now, because the last thing you want to do is realize you're 2 weeks until your release date and you're trying to build up an audience and trying to build up at least a place for people to come and find you. So part of that is figuring out what your website header is going to look like, what your Facebook, Twitter, or Google Plus, all those headers are going to look like. If you have a YouTube channel like we do, you know, we have a branding element that goes with this first draft YouTube channel, and trying to make sure that those things are in place, partially because it's just going to make your life a lot easier, but also because you do, you know, as you interact and as you start building an author network or a network of readers, even if it's very, very small, it's going to be a place for them to gather, and it's going to be a place for people to get information about you and get information about what you're writing. So I think that, you know, having those online areas in place is also important.
Well, and I think too that as you do that, you get to figure out where you enjoy interacting with people, because I can sign up for every social media presence in the world, but when it comes down to it, some of them I am going to be on constantly, maybe in need of a small intervention, and other ones, Tumblr, sorry, I mean, I go there to look at certain people's offerings, but I almost never do anything of my own on Tumblr because I just don't think of it. I just go there and I look at, you know, naked pictures of people because I have good friends who share lovely things. But where I go to interact is mostly Twitter. I go on Facebook because that's where I do get a lot of reader conversation, and I go on Pinterest for various visual inspirations, and so that I can do a lot less work down the line when I'm filling out my cover art forms. But it's good, I think, in advance to set all those up and play around with them and see what you like, because if you commit to being the writer who's a big hit on Tumblr and it turns out you actually can't figure out really how to share things on Tumblr or how that works if for anything other than viewing porn, then maybe that's not where you want to focus your energies. So yes, I totally agree. You should go to all of those places far in advance and mess around and figure out where you want to spend your time.
I would definitely second that. I do a lot of work in social media, and a lot of people are like, oh, do I need every single platform? And it's like, no, you should, you know, have the ones that you will actually use and the ones that you enjoy using. Like if you like taking pictures, make sure you're on Instagram. If you like video, have a YouTube channel. If you like writing jokes, go on Twitter. And everybody has to have Facebook because Facebook and Google rule the world. But like, whatever. So just find the ones you like that you'll be good at.
Well, if you have a passion for it, you also you're the target audience as well. Yeah. So you know what you should be doing. So you're going to be more successful at it.
Yeah.
I do think to go back. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead, absolutely.
I was just going to say, to go back to what you were saying before about the one thing that you would tell someone starting out, which I do wish I had focused more on at the beginning, is to acknowledge that if you, like me, are interested in writing a million different things, that you can do that, but it will take you a lot longer to build your audience in those different areas if you are not consistently putting out books that build one audience at a time. I hugely admire Courtney Milan for a million different things. She's brilliant. She is a fount of wisdom. And one of the things I think that she has done incredibly intelligently is to build a big audience as an author of historical romances, and only then take the leap and say, I'm writing something new now, I hope you come with me, and to launch these new contemporary books, which is great because I think a lot of people are willing to try her contemporary romances, and because her name is already large, even people who maybe don't normally read historicals still have heard of her in sort of a vague way, so she's already part of their awareness, that NA readers. Whereas I think if you, like me, wrote some male-female and then wrote some LGBTQ and then wrote a historical short story, that maybe that was not the best plan. And it would have been wiser for me at the beginning to pick one thing and focus on it, which is what I'm doing now. But to realize it will be easier to build your audience by being more consistent at the beginning and then perhaps branching out later after you've built that audience.
Definitely, and perhaps we can talk a little bit about why you might make a decision to go ahead and keep a brand together if you are writing in multiple genres, and why you might decide to split a brand. I know I decided to do a tagline that was sexy in every century because I was doing both historical and contemporary. I was not planning for my contemporary stuff to come out before any historical did, so it ends up, I'm in the middle of a rebrand right now, actually, where I'm kind of moving over the look of my website and the look of all of my social media platforms to be more contemporary, because I think that that's going to suit what I'm got out right now a lot better. Rebranding is painful. It sucks. It's all that stuff that you had in place, and now you have books coming out, and now you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I have to redo all of this, and I have to go into Canva, which is what I use for my graphics design stuff. And I think
Sorry, that was my groan of horror.
It sucks. So, but sometimes it is necessary. So I know, Alexis, you are looking at launching potentially another brand. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you're deciding to split those two personas? And then Amy Jo, maybe you can talk a little bit about why you kept those two together. So Alexis, if you want to kind of kick us off.
Well, it's not potential. It is happening. It's soft launched right now. I have a Facebook page and a website and everything that is out there. For me, the line is the sex line. Some of the genres I'm writing in are extremely sex-oriented, and the ones that I will be launching, which is why I have a new name and a new brand to go with those, have absolutely no sex in them. And readers they have a line. If they're comfortable with reading about sexual situations, they'll read whatever genre. They don't care, but there are a large number of people who that's a line. They do not want to see that in their books. And so when people see Alexis Anne with her curly tangerine font, they'll know there's probably some sexy stuff in that book. And if they see Alexis Sykes with her block Josephine Sands italic font, they'll know that there's no sex in those books. Did that answer your question?
I think that's a good reason. Yeah. And I think a lot of people who write YA in particular definitely draw that very distinct line between their adult fiction and their YA fiction. And in that scenario, I would have kept another name and kept it separate. The books that I have out now are all close enough. My main dividing line, well, I guess I have two, is between het romance and queer romance, and I'm quite confident that I can win people over from both sides, one way to the other. It's actually harder to get the male and various different LGBTQ readers, I think, to read a male-female romance than it is the other way around. and then between contemporary and erotica, and contemporary romance and just straight erotica. And I think that even my contemporary romance is pretty erotic. It's not necessarily what I'd consider an erotic romance, most of it, because I don't think the sex is what's driving the development of the relationship. But it's got a lot of sex in it. So I'm comfortable having all that under one name. And I'm also an incredibly lazy and easily distracted human being. There is no possibility that if I were running more than one name that I would not end up cross-posting things on the wrong page and just screwing it up. That I would have to have separate computers in different rooms where I had to leave one room and then enter into another room to reset my brain before I was posting. So mostly it's laziness on my part and the hope that I can bring readers from one thing to the other because they are pretty close. What I'm writing, pretty similar.
I have to unmute myself to talk. Laura, do you think you're going to go through a rebranding, or have you considered a rebranding with your site and your presence when you do publish a book, or do you think you're going to stick with the Von Hottie?
That's definitely a question for me. I mean, you know, I started off where I had some following because I was doing pinup and performance stuff, and it was kind of funny because like these random, you know, because it's also like who do you want to reach and who are you talking to, and these like kind of random dudes will find me because I wear a bathing suit on the street and be like, "You're so pretty." I mean, I love you guys. I think I'm pretty. But like, I don't think there are people that want to read about like my mermaids having sex with vampires or like these dark fairy tales. Like, I don't think that's what they're here for. Like,
you never know.
So you never know. But I mean, but there is also this like following of women that I have that they just kind of are like, you're a cool lady. I like cool ladies, and I'm like, yes, stick with me. Let us go. So in the meantime, I'm in the middle almost of like a segue where I'm taking the Von Hottie out of like strictly two-dimensional performance pinup stuff and segueing into like this identity as like an author with like things on the rise. And so at some point I might need to like rename that, and I'm hoping that I can like just kind of segue them in the way that I have been. But like if I get, you know, some super crazy publishing deal and they want me to have a different name, I'll have to go through that. But I'm kind of hoping to like take as many people along the ride of like, you knew me when I was on the street corner in a bathing suit, and now you know me when I'm on a bookshelf.
And so fabulous.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the thing. I was like, I have no idea. There's no guarantee of money or accolades, but there is guarantee of glamour. So I'm in this for the glamour.
I mean, she's wearing a head wrap right now.
I'm feeling so lucky right now that my process does not require me to be in a bathing suit at any time.
Yeah, for real. No, it's like, yeah, it's like if I'm having a creative block, it's like, oh, I have to buy a coloring book or wear a caftan. That's how we do it.
Well, maybe we can talk a little bit about why everybody decided to fix their brand the way that they have, and we've talked a little bit about some of the changes, but maybe if it's evolved and you've felt like you've needed to grow in that brand. So Mary Chris, it's been a little bit since we've heard from you. You touched on it a little bit with your specific brand now, but can you talk about why you decided to present yourself this way, and kind of if it has changed, why it's changed, and how you've allowed yourself the room to do that?
Yeah, well, I think for me, anything that has changed has just changed because I've gotten better at knowing where to go for graphics. I've gotten better at figuring out how to design a website. I've gotten more clear, I think in my writing and what I'm writing and how to articulate what I want to write, what stories I write. So really interesting. I was looking through some old things on MailChimp, and I saw an old header I had made, and at the time I remember spending hours on it. It was a header for my blog, and I was so proud of it, and it had this like really dark black background, and I had a friend who's a aspiring photographer. She took some wonderful pictures for me, which is kind of a side note, but I would say that's one thing that you should definitely do for your brand is have professional pictures taken. It just makes everything look more professional. But anyway, so I had this great professional photo, and I created this, what I thought at the time was beautiful header, I was looking at it the other day, and it's just really, really quite terrible. But I think, I mean, it really, truly is. But I just didn't know. I mean, I didn't know about things like Canva. I started doing, I think what it was Alexis was talking about earlier, like going and looking at websites of authors that I liked and books, that I was kind of aspiring to be shelf mates with, and they all had these sort of very like clean white background, like lots of white space on the websites, really pretty fonts, and I was like, great, so like that probably should be more what I'm doing. And so I think I just got clear on it, and so it really helped me when I sat down. And then also, again, learning about things like Canva that help you create a header that actually fits on the top of your blog, so you're not trying to like put it in like a puzzle piece and there's always this little white strip at the top. So, I think my branding has just been about growing personally and growing like in my knowledge of what to do and how to do it. But it is always funny. If you are rebranding or going through a change, please keep pictures of the old stuff or screenshots, because if you ever really want to make yourself feel better and see how far you've come, go look at it and be like, what was I thinking? I'm so much better now.
And guys, just so you know, if Google is working correctly, there should be a link for Canva up on this actual video, so you can click through. It's amazing. Go play on it. That's all I'm going to say about it. Discover the wonder yourself.
I was just going to add to that yeah, like the other thing that's kind of cool about having a brand and a platform now in like the year 2015 is that in a way that it has not been before, it's so much easier to be accessible to your readers and to your audience and to be able to reach them. There's not these smoke screens of other barriers and things. And like I remember when iWeb first came out, that's how I built my first website, and I was like, now it is in my hands and I can reach the people. And I was like, here are pictures of me in a bathing suit. That's what the world needs. So just like looking back at that thing versus like something a little nicer and my friend put together for me, it was like yes, we've grown as people. We have a better idea now about what we're saying. But don't be afraid to mess up, because you won't get to where you are unless you mess up a lot first.
And that is such an important thing. And one of my favorite things about right now is you can try so many different things and you can screw up and just brush it aside and do something different, or holy crap, I didn't even mean to do that, but do you see how well that just worked? Doing that.
Yeah.
So why the tangerine fonts, Lexi? Why did you decide to go with that look? Because I've known you since the first Storm Inside book came out, and that's been the look.
It is. It was actually when I was doing filters, I sat down with my husband, Nate, and we opened there's websites where you can look at fonts, and you just type in a word and it'll show you what it looks like in every font that you can imagine in the universe. And he would narrow it down to like 10 and be like, here, look at these 10, and I would be like, no, these are all wrong. And I was just looking for that feeling that it invoked romance, and it and I knew it would look good on a cover, and so he just kept bringing them to me, and because I wanted to have fresh eyes when I looked at it, so I would leave, and then I would come back and I would look at it with fresh eyes, and we got it down to about 2 or 3, and I picked Tangerine. We put it on the first horrible covers of the Filters series, which I'm glad are no longer available anywhere for anyone to see, and I was like, yes, that's it. That is my name, and that will be my name forever. It was that simple. It was the one that caught my eye.
What about taglines? I hated writing my tagline. It took me like 6 months. I mean, I hate writing blurbs. I think everybody does. I think they're terrible. I do it for a living in my day job, and I still hate it. So why did you guys pick what you... So I'm sexy in every century. What is everybody else? What have we
Amy
got?
Jo's is the best.
It is.
I'm
so
almost
unfair.
positive. I think Sherry Slade wrote that for me. She has written almost all of my good taglines or titles of any kind, because I'm terrible at that. I am Amy Jo Cousins, all the sexy, all the time.
Woo! So unfair.
And I knew I needed something in the same way I did for my website that could go for all kinds of different books. I needed something that didn't say this is about a man and a woman finding each other and staying together forever after they have their mad, passionate, falling in love experience, because I was going to be writing books that weren't necessarily going to be about a man and a woman, or weren't going to be about falling in love and staying together forever. So I needed something that was a little bit more broadly based than that, much like Julia's awesome Sexy in All the Centuries. Is that what it is?
Sexy in Every Century, which leaves me about as much room as I could. I could write sweet, I could write erotic, I could, pretty much do whatever I want. So no sci-fi in the future, and thank God, because that thing, coming up with a tagline that nobody else has come up with, or nobody else is big enough to, come across your Google search has come up with is hard. It's really hard, and it goes everywhere. It's going to go on your business cards. It's going to go on your website. It's going to, go on every bit of back matter that you have. It's going to, be all over the place. So you have to like it, and I like it enough.
I think that's all we can shoot for, is something that we like enough.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is everybody else?
I'm really nervous.
I don't have a tagline either.
Okay. We're going to make a tagline for you guys. We're going to workshop taglines one day. We'll make
According to Twitter, it should be, there's no promise of money, but there is promise of glamour.
Nice.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
I like it. I like it.
Problem solved.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Okay, next first draft is workshop your tagline.
Exactly.
I'll be watching.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's pretty much what I did. I mean, I sent out an email cry for help to, I think, a half a dozen friends and said, here are my stupid, terrible, awful ideas that suck. Can you help me come up with something sort of like this, but good? And,
good.
Yeah, but please, good, because mine are bad.
That's kind of like how Julia has titled my last two books for me. Like, I come up with these sort of half titles, and then Julia makes them work. It's true.
I can't title anything myself. I can title your book, though.
Yes.
Just give me the book.
And my bad version of a title, and then you'll make it work.
I have a kind of super nerdy branding question for everybody. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm with you. Did anybody get super nerdy about it and decide this is what they were told and these were their core values, or were you I'm gonna write sexy stuff? I want people to know it's sexy. How deep into did you go, or were you just trying to at least get your name out there?
With the tagline or with the brand? You broke up.
The brand.
Okay.
Oh, with the brand, yeah.
Go ahead, Mija.
I was going to say I knew enough to know that I couldn't make mine super specific, but that I also know that there are so many authors out there, and this is not anybody's flaw. It's just that there are so many authors that every possible combination of sexy, smart, and fun, or sexy, sweet, and smart, or fun, sexy, whatever three adjectives you can come up with have been used, and not one time, about 100 times. So I wasn't clever enough to think of any way around that where I could just throw out some adjectives that would actually describe my books, even if I could have come up with them. I couldn't think of anything that hadn't already been used by people who were way more on the ball than I was. So I, just tried to come up with something more generic, but hopefully conveying that sort of borderline, ridiculous, funny charm that I'm shooting for most of the time. And of course, I didn't come up with it at all, because Sherry did. Sherry
is wonderful. We all appreciate and love Sherry.
Yes. Well, she's why I'm on Tumblr, too.
Yes, exactly. The secret Tumblr. So really quickly, we actually have a question. So the session is open for questions, question and answer, and it's actually from Alexander Houghton, and she asks, how much did you work with your agent on branding for those of you that are agented, and how much of that is driving how much of it is actually driving your brand by yourself. So I can speak to the agent thing. I didn't talk to her at all about it. I kind of was just like, this is my pen name, and I have a website and stuff. So she follows me on Twitter, and we talk, and all my emails have my tagline and everything in it. But for the most part, we don't have a lot of conversations about that. We did talk about how I wanted to write contemporary and I wanted to write historical, and I would have to figure out some way of making sure that that is all incorporated. But it wasn't a conscious decision to have a conversation with my agent about kind of, this is how I'm going to frame myself. I'm sure some agents are much more hands-on than others about it. Amy Jo, do you have a literary agent?
Yes, I do. I work with Saritza Hernandez, and I already had my pen name because my first 2 romance novels came out a decade ago, before any of this stuff existed. There was no branding because there was no social media. That nobody in 2004 was on any of these platforms because they other than Facebook. But I was only there as a real person showing pictures of my kid. So I had my pen name already. I was in the process of setting up a website, and Saritza was definitely one of the people who, when I was unable to make decisions, I sent out my email cries for help saying, I have to pick between these 4 things. Which one do I like? Somebody tell me. And she's very savvy with feedback on that, but she is also quite hands-off in the I'm not here to tell you what to do sense. I'm happy to give you my opinion, but she's not at all pushy about that. So she's very good at reminding me of things that I need, of reminding me that I should put together marketing pages, or I can't even remember the name of the thing that I'm supposed to be doing to put on my website, so I have like a press kit that can go out instantly. All of these things that she's very savvy about, giving me lists of stuff that I should work on over the long haul so that I have it all ready and easily accessible on my website. I'm partway there. But most of the work that I did for my visual branding was with my website designer, because I had no idea what I was doing, and you guys are amazing. I can barely make Canva operate enough to put like a quote on a blank field. I'm terrible. I'm so bad. I have a mental block with graphic design stuff. I'm very savvy at other things, but not that. So when I was doing a website, I knew I needed a designer, and I worked with Amber at Book Beautiful, and she's amazing, and even though I couldn't articulate what I was looking for, she just kept on working with me until she came up with it. And I'm sure at some point down the line I will look at it and say, that was great, but this is not what I'm staying with forever. I think it's realistic to expect that 5 years in, or however many years in, you will look at it and say, I now have a better idea of what I want, so I'm going to adjust all of this. Like you're doing, Julia, realizing, okay, it's not a terrible thing, it's just that I've had success in unexpected areas. So when I took my choice of pictures for the website header and showed it to her, I was like, I need something that could be boys or girls. These are feet. And she was not super excited about feet, but I was like, yeah, but you can't tell. It could be anyone. So
I love your image. It's very whimsical and sexy at the same time.
That is all Amber. She's fantastic. I would suck.
So what about Alexis and Laura and Mary Chris? Do you guys bounce ideas off of people? And we talked, both Amy Jo and I talked a little bit about whether you do or do not talk to an agent, but I know, Alexis, you talked about your husband Nate working with you. How about you guys? Do you have people that you're sending this stuff to, or is it all you, it's your opinion, you have one vision?
I absolutely have people that I'm sending things to and working with. I always say that my husband is also my graphic design team. We both have some savvy, but he has far more patience than I do. He'll sit down and figure out how to make my website do something, and I know I can Google it. Like, I know I can Google that piece of code and figure it out, but I'll just walk away. And he will literally sit there. I've seen him sit through, like, not eating. I'm like, okay, really, like, we should go have dinner now. And it's this challenge to figure out that one piece of code to make the thing do something right. So absolutely, I'm not doing it all on my own. I have some design skill, but no programming skill. So definitely get help. Absolutely.
I had to unmute myself there. Laura and Alexis, what do you think?
So my website was done by my very good friend Lucas Stoffel, lucasstoffel.com. He's an artist, and also he works a lot with digital strategy and visual design. So he was the one that showed me how to do iWeb, and then when I was like, iWeb is dying, I was like, I need something better. He used to do web design, so he made my current website. And I definitely bounce a lot of things off of him. It's when I can catch him to do stuff. As I get bigger and better, I'll probably need to either hire his company or not just have a favor, or get something. But the nice thing about having people that know you, there's like a certain level of like love and devotion that goes into it. Being like, oh, I think you're really wonderful, so I'll just make this a little prettier. But I definitely have other friends too, that I bounce ideas off of. But at the same time, it depends on what you need your friends for. Most of my friends, I need to tell them, this is the weirdest idea I've ever had. Like Julia Kelly, I've told you that too. And I just need them to be like, thumbs up. And I'm like, great, now I'll make it happen. So that's what I go to my friends for. It's just like validation that it will be weird and correct to go for. And also, please graphic design this image for me so I don't look like a total Yahoo. Thanks.
Yeah, why not go, shoot photographs in a swimsuit on a street corner in Brooklyn in February? That's fine.
Yeah. Obviously, we were having brunch. We were already together. It made practical sense.
I guess it's my turn.
It's you. Yes, it's you, Lexi.
Canva.com, and I do almost everything. I show Nate things sometimes when he's around. He's not around very much right now, so he's not very helpful. And then I send frantic emails to friends and say, I don't know what to do. Should it be blue or pink? Should it be purple or white? And is this centered? For the love of God, why does it not look centered? But for the most part, it's last second. Please, somebody look at this in an email, and then I Canva.com, and I do everything else.
But I think that other set of eyes is really important, because you're right. Like, if you stare at something for a really long time, you'll swear it's like a different color than it is, or it's not on center. And sometimes you just need that person to say, no, like, actually, like, it's done. Like, you can stop. You can step away from the design. So it is good to have somebody just run things by, especially if you have specific questions. Like, does this look too like neon colored, or like? Yeah.
Yes.
Or you can do what I did and not run something by people and brand an entire 20-something person blog hop and accidentally misspell the name of your blog hop in the graphic that you sent specifically to the authors who you are not personally introduced to. And you can do it that way too, and learn your lesson that everything needs to be proofed down to your Instagram graphics. But I'm just saying.
That also happens.
I am so sure. Sometimes I'm like, this is the bomb. And then I send an email to Mary, Chris, and Julia, and I'm like, look at this, it's awesome. And they're like, your font's the wrong size.
It doesn't have a second arm.
I was recently working with my theater company. We were working on a Kickstarter campaign, and everyone was like, your graphics are so good. And I didn't want to tell them that my collaborator had wrist surgery, so he had one arm that was functional, and he made all of our graphics on Microsoft Word and then screenshotted them, and then we put them into iMovie for our Kickstarter video. And everyone's like, look really good. We're like, yeah, thanks.
Hey,
I'm
a huge fan of the smacked together one program to another program, file this, save that. Because I went to grad school back in the early 2000s when there was Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, and Google was like this. You heard about Google? It's this new thing, and that's how we did everything. It was like, okay, so if we make this design in Word, and then we take a picture of it, and we scan it in, and we put it in. And so to this day, sometimes people are like, how did you make that? I'm like, I don't want to tell you.
It's like PowerPoint is the dirty little secret. You can do a lot in PowerPoint, but I never want to be like, I made that design in PowerPoint.
It's super cool, guys.
Yeah.
So basically all of us are like really good artists, but not really good graphic designers. So the point being, if you don't know how to do it, you can outsource it or you can figure it out. And then if you figure it out, get feedback. Yeah, that's the lesson.
But feedback from the right people.
The right people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because I asked my sister, who I would normally go to for advice on absolutely anything. And so when I was doing this website the first time around, I was like, I can't decide. But I was set with many of the elements and just sort of trying to tweak last details. And I sent it to her and said, this is what I've got from my designer. It's great. I just need to figure out these one or two last things. And my sister, not a romance person. Not even a little bit. Like, maybe the only romances she's ever read in her life were mine. And I think she's probably not read most of them. I don't think she would even do that. So when I sent it to her, her response was, that's kind of girly, right? And I was like, well, it's a romance website, so there is supposed to be, it doesn't have to be girly, but yes, no, it's not going to look sort of like Urban Decay or, camouflage. And she was the wrong person. She's brilliant and wise in many ways, but she was not the right person to send like romance stuff to and ask for her to judge. You guys, right people.
So we've got a little bit less than 10 minutes left, guys. So unless anybody has some parting words, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up with a round of kind of what we're working on, what you would like to plug. We have some links that, again, hopefully are working if Google Hangouts decides to behave itself. So any parting words before we do some promo stuff?
I do. I think we just touched on photos, but I would say that they are important, especially with all of the social media and how well visual images do on them. So you are going to need, an author photo or a headshot of some kind, and, if at all possible, get a professional photographer, like a friend who is pretty much like that. And I would say having to take headshots a lot or somewhat, it might be weird for you to be in front of the camera. So my tip to you, if you're getting your headshots taken, you know what to do, is to make sure you play music and that you are in a place where you feel comfortable and you're wearing clothes that you feel comfortable and things that you feel good in, and then your photos will be good. It's going to be hard to narrow down your photos, so you're going to have to get opinions from like 20 people, but you will need photos. So the sooner you get photos, the better.
And you'll need them at a moment's notice when you least expect it, so you might as well get them now. And as good quality as you can afford, definitely.
And she's right, because your picture is you, and you are your brand, and everything is social. So it comes down to you in the beginning of all of the branding. So make sure that you have a good picture. And mine actually, of all the photographers in my life, I've related to photographers. I have best friends who are photographers. My picture is a camera phone picture from a wedding.
But you were probably having a really good time at the wedding, and that's why you're like, I look so pretty. Like,
exactly. It's awesome, and I love it, and I won't change it. So it's awesome. It works.
Yeah, I think as far as parting words too, like we also sort of touched on this, but I just want to bring back up, this idea of interacting with people. I think, Amy Jo, you talked about like you just try to have really real interactions with people online, and I really do think that you are your brand, and so anything you can do to interact with other people online and sort of just show who you are as a person, bring in other factors of your life, because it's really easy as a writer to talk about writing a lot, which is awesome when you're doing a show for writers and that's what you're doing. But trying to talk about what your other interests are and bringing people into your brand that way. I don't have a tagline, but if I did, it would probably involve something with coffee and craft beer, because those are sort of the other two things that I find myself talking about online a lot. And in doing kind of some brand work, come up with those other things that you're going to be comfortable interacting with online that maybe aren't so inherently personal that you're like, oh, I'm giving up like huge pieces of myself online, but that you can talk with people about. Like, for me, it's craft beer and cooking and good coffee and that kind of thing. But whatever those things are for you, figuring out how you can interact with people about them, and then just you'll be genuine and excited and passionate about them, and that will come through. And ask questions of people. I mean, if people are interacting with you on Twitter, like, join in the conversation and ask questions back. It's just kind of like having a conversation in real life, so people want to know that you're genuinely interested in them. And you'll end up learning about your readers that way too, which is nice.
Those are wise words, Mary Chris.
She summed up the most important thing that we managed to gloss over.
No, and I do think that's I could plus one that and say that as much as we talk about branding as if everything is just a product, the least attractive branding I see are people who are doing nothing but promoting their brand, who are consciously only talking about their own books, only talking about their own projects, whatever it is, it's all about themselves. My most popular blog posts by far are my once or twice a month blog posts where I recommend, not even recommend, I put up a list of books that I really enjoyed recently, or I put up a list of books about a certain topic. Whatever it is, those are by far my most popular interactions with people on my blog. And it's not about me. I'm not talking about my books at all. I'm saying these are the last 8 things I read where there was letter writing in the book, or it's mail historicals, or just random. And I think that leads to more genuine interaction. Like Mary Chris said, it's not about you necessarily all the time as much as sharing what you enjoy with other people.
Definitely, and I think if you're just starting out and you're scared of starting a whole bunch of Twitter channels or accounts or whatever, to try to, if you are especially an introvert, somebody who's not used to being out in front of people, try to think of it as just another way that your voice is out there. It's like the stuff you can't say in the book, because there's only so many things you can say in the book, but it's a way to have like a day-to-day contact with people who are interested in the same things, and just another dimension that you are giving to yourself and your voice and what you are trying to put out in the world. You're not Coca-Cola. Nobody wants you to be Coke Zero. Like, just be yourself. It's fine. It's fine. It's going to go great.
Yeah, I think the genuine voice is important, and to that point, nobody wants to see book promos. As somebody who tweeted out a lot of book promos today, nobody wants to see book promos all day long. Sometimes
it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, sometimes it's necessary, but the reality is that for the most part, I'm probably tweeting about Tom Hiddleston and Victoriana and crinolines and my dogs in London who I miss. So that's a lot more connective than just the buy my book, which again I tweeted out a lot today, so I apologize. It's a little hypocritical, but sometimes necessary. Yes, that's true. There was a warning that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
For the ones who are starting out, this is another area where you have to try a whole bunch of different things. You have to try tweeting about your coffee addiction, and maybe no one cares, and maybe then you switch to tweeting about everybody else's books, and maybe still nobody cares what you have to say, and so then you switch to Facebook and you talk about your cat, and all of a sudden you have 2,000 new followers, and oh my God, that worked. Okay, you're gonna have to try a whole bunch of different things. And some of them are going to work, and some of it's going to be screaming into the big dark void that is social media, and just keep trying.
Yeah, the rule of the internet is get a pet. I mean, I think that is
like obviously. My
As soon as I
sister's
get the book
cats.
deal, I'm gonna get a dog.
Yeah, obviously. My sister's cat's Instagram has nearly as many followers as my Instagram does. So let's just keep that in perspective here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a friend whose
Bad
pug
Kitty
has
Sophia,
more Instagram
people.
followers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bad Kitty Sophia. I'm
Yeah.
plugging my sister's cat's Instagram.
Wait, what is it? Bad Kitty?
Bad Kitty Sophia. It is
Oh my
just
gosh.
pictures of my sister's cat. And yeah. So the internet moves in strange ways.
It does. It does.
Absolutely. And there's no rhyme or reason. And so if you're just starting out, I love what Alexis said. Just try things and know that you will have a post about your dinner one night that like 300 people will like, and then you'll put up something that you think is really just like amazing and insightful or really pithy, and nobody will read it. So it happens. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, don't do what I do and think of your best joke at 2 a.m. and then put that out because no one's going to see that.
You're hitting the
Except
I don't
for
care
someone
how
who's-
good it is.
Unless someone's up really early in some other country, and then they'll be like, "This is amazing."
Yes.
Somebody else.
Indonesia, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All my Indonesian followers are like, favorite, star that.
I love that I've made friends with people in Australia and New Zealand and Europe because it does mean I can almost always find somebody on the internet, even at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's totally true.
That is
When you need to ask, do I put a hyphen in hard on or no? You can get an answer at 2 o'clock in the morning because I can never remember that.
That's great. Yeah. Welcome to the wonderful world of Twitter sourcing your proofs.
That's my
Do
new
you put a hyphen in hard on?
Right, and
You can't ask me.
She doesn't know.
That's why I have to ask every time.
Because now I'm going to ask some people.
Somebody in the YouTube comments, please leave the grammatical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Please leave the
If you're
grammatically
watching this on
correct.
YouTube, please tell us. Is there a hyphen in hard on? We cannot remember. It's like, how do you spell accommodate? I can't remember how many M's go in accommodate.
All right. On this note, I think we're going to start wrapping things up. So,
I'm so
the most
glad.
hey, join the group. The number of times we've talked about sex on here is probably a little disturbing to some people, but it's whatever. Romance, go with it. All right, who's got it most together right now? Who wants to start talking about what they're working on and how we can find their fantastic work, stuff, things?
I'll go.
Okay, you go. Go, Vaughn. I'll go first.
No, you guys all have like real things that people can buy. So I'll go first and say, if you want to get in on the ground floor on this goodness, you should follow me on Twitter at Von Hottie, on Facebook, Von Hottie there too, and you can sign up for my newsletter. It's in the link at firstdraftwriting.com, and I'm saving all my good stories for my newsletter. So you want to be there.
And follow hashtag grownasswomen.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent
Oh, great.
hashtag.
Thanks.
All right, Amy Jo, you want to go next?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at almost all hours of the day. Just search. I realized that here's a good thing. Sorry to jump back. When you pick your Twitter handle, don't pick one that starts with an underscore, because that's dumb. So just search for Amy Jo Cousins, because spelling mine out to people is stupid. I'm on Twitter all the time. I am on Facebook a whole lot, and I pin pictures on Pinterest. If you are into blog posts where I talk about awesome books by tons of fabulous authors that I just adore, you can find me at amyjocousins.com doing that on a pretty regular basis too.
And you have
and I'm supposed to pimp a thing, yes, or promo a thing. My second book in my Bender Break series from Sam Hain just came out 4 weeks ago. That's called Nothing Like Paris, and I refer to that as my Angry Banjo Boy book. And in it, I am redeeming the loathed antagonist from the first book in the series. And so far, I think, so good. Most people who hated him in book one are sort of resentfully loving him in book two. So
I love when that
That's a
happens.
good answer, Hero. Yes, it's great.
Yes, yes, that was hard. I don't know that I ever want to do that again.
Mary Chris, would you like to go next?
Sure. You can find me at marychrisescobar.com, which I think is in my little bar below me. Also on Twitter, I also have an underscore in my Twitter, but it's at marychris_e. Same thing on Instagram and also on Facebook. And right now, if you sign up for my newsletter, you actually will get a free copy of my novella, How to Fall. So you'll also get a link to my weekly blog. So I just have short little entries every week about kind of everyday life, things that catch my eye or that I'm thinking about during the week. So you can find all that on my blog, and there's a pretty little macaroni and cheese orange colored box on my blog where you can sign up for my newsletter. So if you would like to get a free copy of How to Fall, head on over there.
Beautiful. Okay, Alexis, what have you got for us?
It's my turn. My website is alexisannebooks.com. It just got a facelift. Everything's very purple right now. I don't know where purple came from. I think it's just because my Storm Inside series has one look and my tea cereals have a different look, and so I thought purple was something that went in between. And I'm trying, I don't have a street team. I've never done any of that. Maybe that's a subject for a different day, but I do have a pretty active newsletter, and so there's a big purple link for it up at the top. And I will be having something, if you like the tea cereals, then coming up later this summer, there will be some special stuff for my newsletter subscribers for the Tempt cereal coming out later this year.
Yay! All right, I am Julia Kelly, and I am here to pimp the book that Alexis and I have coming out on May 19th. We are releasing 1 Week in Hawaii, which is the follow-up to 1 Week in Wyoming. They look lovely together, talking about branding. They do look like they go together. It makes my little branding heart just squeal with joy. So that's coming out on May 19th. The cover reveal was today. It's out for pre-order pretty much everywhere but Barnes & Noble. Because Barnes & Noble is being tricky right now. And you can also find me at juliakellywrites.com. I also have an unwieldy Twitter handle, so find me from my website. And we're kind of also want to promo firstdraftwriting.com. That's actually where this will go to live. In addition to the YouTube channel, we have a website, we have a home. We're really excited about this, and we're continually adding content to it. So, you know, any books that were mentioned throughout various episodes will get show notes and recommendations that we made. This Canva thing we keep talking about, we will link to that in the post that goes along with this particular show. And that is the place to go and follow if you guys want to find out more information about what's coming up for future shows. We've got a lot of great things planned. We hope to make guests a much bigger part of what we're doing now to give you guys a little bit of a different perspective. You've been stuck with us for a couple of years, so we figure it's time to bring some new voices in. And we also want to let you know that we're Alexis, Mary Chris, and I are going to be at RWA, and I actually think Amy Jo and Laura, are you going to be there as well?
Yes!
Yes.
I'm going to be at RT this year.
You're going to be at RT. Okay, so we
Yes.
are going to do some shows. We have some shows planned dealing with conferences specifically and kind of doing a survival guide. Those were very popular last year, so we want to make sure that everybody's prepared and ready to go for the height of conference season. So we will make that happen, and we hope that we will be seeing you guys pop up in questions or on comments or in person in New York. So that's all for now, and we all want to say thank you very much for joining us for kind of a little bit of an extended version of First Draft. We're having too much fun to wrap up on time. So thank you, and we will be back the first Tuesday of May. And that will be coming up sooner than we think. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.